Welcome to Creature Guide Live Daily News. For those of you that don't know, my name is Ethan. We are streaming on both Rumble, YouTube, and Kick. And so today we're going to be going over a new species of dinosaur that has been discovered from the late Triassic period, as well as a new species of dinosaur from the Cretaceous. So from Sign News, new species of small ductile dinosaur identified in Morocco. Well, this is definitely extremely rare to hear because North Africa is not known, considering Morocco is over the northern part of the continent. North Africa, in fact, the whole continent in general is not known for having many species of ornithopods, and hadrosaurs are extremely rare. Many specimens seem to be just fragmentary bones, so they're usually unnamed. A new genus and species of dwarf Lambeosaurine hadrosaurid has come to light in Moroccan rocks dating to the late Cretaceous epoch, some 68 million years ago. A Lambeosaurine in Africa. That is astounding. Usually, these animals are only heard in different parts of East Asia, such as Mongolia, China, Eastern Russia, and um, possibly into Kazakhstan, but that might be pushing towards a little too far west, and as well North America, which is usually where the more renowned species are from, such as Corythosaurus, Lambeosaurus itself. But over in Northern Africa, this definitely changes a lot. And also during the last 2 million years of the Cretaceous, about 68 million years ago, during the Maastrichtian stage of the Cretaceous. There still isn't any evidence for ceratopsians, such as relatives of Triceratops, but technically, Triceratops was existing over in North America at this point, and as well with T Rex. The other thing is any types of ankylosaur species, so the armored dinosaurs like Ankylosaurus, Euoplocephalus, and Tyrannosaurs themselves. So um, this is very unique. Yeah, as we can see in the picture, these animals are unidentified, and it's probably due to, or most of these animals, in many cases, just simply having fragmentary remains. Also, it doesn't seem to be that the animals didn't become very large in this area, probably because it wasn't necessarily a complete desert, but it didn't supply enough nutrition to create large animals weighing over 20 tons. Duck-billed dinosaurs or hadrosaurids were highly successful herbivores that staged a major radiation in the late Cretaceous epoch, say University of Bath paleontologist Nicholas Longrich and his colleagues. Hadrosaurs in general, they were a very um, large group of ornithopod dinosaurs. However, they didn't last for very long.
What do you mean by large group?
There was a wide variety of different genre as well as species. However, they only first evolved somewhere around 83 million years ago during the early Campanian stage of the Cretaceous, and then would go extinct at around 66 million years ago with the rest of the dinosaurs, or at least not including the avian dinosaurs, the birds. Um, but it is interesting. So we have evidence of a species of hadrosaur coexisting not with the short-armed tyrannosaurs, but with the short-armed bellysaur carnivores in the region, and also not coexisting with any species of ceratopsians. It's very odd. Now, there were different species of ornithopods further north, such as the elasmarians, such as Zalmoxes and Telmatosaurus, that did not coexist with different species of ceratopsians or ankylosaurs, tyrannosaurs either. However, one of them is a very distant relative of the true members of Hadrosauridae, and the other is a Hadrosauromorph, not necessarily an actual member, true member of Hadrosauridae. Hadrosaurids evolved in North America in the Turonian age, 94 to 90 million years ago. This might be referring to Hadrosauromorphs, possibly. Hadrosauridae doesn't pop up until somewhere around 83 million years ago. It's a very young lineage of dinosaurs for the Mesozoic era before dispersing into Asia and Europe. Let's see. So, speaking of the dinosaurs over Northern Africa, let's bring up a larger sauropod. So Aegyptosaurus. So Aegyptosaurus. Yeah, unfortunately, this Sidai Titanosaur is unnamed. It also seems to be a species that probably doesn't weigh much more than 6 to 7 tons. But the animal that I'm referring to weighed somewhere around 8 to 12 tons over in northern Africa. Not necessarily as far north as Morocco and Egypt, though it certainly was possible, but in areas such as Niger, so just north of countries such as Benin, Togo, and Nigeria. I believe. So it is a close relative of the different species of saltosaurs that would roam in different parts of the Cretaceous. However, it seems to be that Aegyptosaurus is simply just a member of Titanosauridae, so not necessarily a true member of Titanosauridae, which is the family of Titanosauridae.
I think this is an old one, a really old one.
It also seems to be that this, when it came to length, for this sauropod was a medium-sized or medium length species, only reaching somewhere around 49 feet or pushing 15 meters.
No, it was just another one done in black and white. They changed the color.
Um, yeah, I believe this animal was actually discovered fairly early on, at least somewhere around the late 1910s, so pushing around 1915. Oh, that's definitely far more recent. Yeah, it was back in 2022. And this is a good reconstruction. I think the other one was okay back for the early 20th century, the early 1900s, but this seems to be much more matching the overall musculature of the animal, the skin texture, and also even the head structure. That's a big part too. For many species of sauropods, unfortunately, we do not have the skull for every species. So it seems to be that we have to go in and compare it with its close relatives, or at least whatever family it seems to belong to. And the problem is, since it's just Titanosauridae, it becomes a lot more tricky. But linking it with the different animals of the time, and as well as even animals that would have lived much later or even beforehand, depending on how close related this animal would be, we can have a bit of a glimpse as to what the head structure would look like. But you can have certain individuals that are quite distantly related, and they still can have a similar head structure to an extent. Let's see.
Wait a minute, I have one. Hold on.
Yeah, I think his legs though might be a bit pudgy, especially his back legs. Not again. No, it's not trying to push any hate for Megalosaurus, which was an animal discovered back in 1676, a species of megalosaurid carnivore from England. And it lived in England during the mid Jurassic, around 170 million years ago.
Wait, this is
That's
Megalosaurus?
Yes. This is a reconstruction from the early 1900s, probably around 1930s, 1940s.
I always forget what you say this guy is.
Yeah, Megalosaurus would have a much longer, more narrow sort of a snout compared to like the squarish sort of a shape, which is the closest dinosaur or specifically carnivore that you could probably compare it to is maybe some sort of a carcharodontosaur, but even then it's fairly far off. Very small arms compared to its body size. Not that Megalosaurus necessarily had large arms, but they were longer compared to its overall body and also a bit more just evenly proportioned. It also only had 3 claws. Another thing, the feet would be much larger compared to its body size. The tail is far too thick and short. I think the overall shins,
I
um,
just throw him up here every time
yeah,
you
it
ask
ends
me
up.
for something and he comes up under the name.
Yeah, it's annoying when that occurs. I think the shin bone might be a bit short compared to, I mean, not short, might be slightly long. The Megalosaurus was probably a decent runner, probably capable of running up to 30 miles per hour at tops. There were certain species of medium-sized theropod dinosaurs that could reach um, slightly higher speeds, such as certain medium species of tyrannosaurs. The presence of a hadrosaur in Africa is perplexing because Africa had been isolated from Laurasia by deep sea waves since the mid Jurassic, while hadrosaurs evolved in the late Cretaceous. Yeah, it's just shocking. There have been earlier species of ornithopods from Africa over in earlier times of the Cretaceous, but not specifically a member of Hadrosauridae. There, I believe, have been certain fragmentary remains, but nothing like this. The resolution to the paradox appears to be that duckbills, specifically the hadrosaurs, swam or rafted to Africa. It is odd that they're referred to as duckbills. I mean, you could say in some instances it can make sense, but when you look at the structure of a duck's bill, any species of duck, and then you look at a hadrosaur. In fact, let's just pull them. I want to pull up two species. So one Ouranosaurus. So Ouranosaurus.
You want a smiling one or a non-smiling one?
Occasionally you can have reconstructions with hadrosaurs looking like they're smiling, but maybe it just goes for many types of dinosaurs. You can put up the smiling one, unless it's an AI one. Then no, unless it seems to be the only accurate, somewhat accurate depiction. But Ouranosaurus, there should be many depictions.
I don't know. Opinion.
No,
Okay.
that Suchomimus in the back doesn't look bad, and there seem to have been some other iguanodontid.
There's a Reddit one.
It's from like Fallen Kingdom, or I mean, Jurassic World, Evolution, or Prehistoric Kingdom.
We are getting a ton of AI ones now.
I think his arms are a bit small compared to his body size. Seems to be a weirdly shaped head, unless it's changed in certain other reconstructions recently. Um, the sail, I mean, I don't know, it just seems a bit oddly proportioned. I'm not sure what to say about this. Honestly, I do not think it looks very good. I think also the feet are too small compared to its body size. Ouranosaurus was a species of ornithopod, so it was a pro-hadrosauromorph, proto-hadrosauromorph,
Okay, here's a weird one.
that lived over in different parts of Egypt somewhere around 110 to 115 million years ago, and coexisted with species of spinosaurs such as Suchomimus. This is no way. Is this the Ark Survival Evolved one? That is no. That's not good anyway. I'd say that the forearms now are far too long and the hind limbs are too short. Almost looks like somebody was trying to stick in a an older Spinosaurus reconstruction where they had the legs too like squinted down.
Somebody took a picture of one.
Um, well, I mean, from this instance, it actually doesn't seem to be a bad look. I think it's supposed to be a Sarcosuchus going after it, which is a species of crocodilomorph that did coexist with Suchomimus and Ouranosaurus during the early Cretaceous. Especially the oh, this isn't bad. I'd say this model is pretty good for an Ouranosaurus. They did have some of the most efficient chewing, or at least dental structure for chewing ferns, early flowers at this point in the Mesozoic era. They still weren't as efficient as some of the later true hadrosaurs, but they were very good for this time. It is also a member of the iguanodontid lineage of dinosaurs. This animal only reached somewhere around 26 feet in length. We're pushing somewhere around 8 meters and probably weighed maybe 2 tons. So it was a medium sized iguanodontid. I don't mind this individual. I think the thumb spikes on the forelimbs might be a bit large. I do like, though, they still gave the arms more of a somewhat musculature. Because Ouranosaurus probably didn't necessarily have extremely skinny forelimbs. There's still probably a bit of muscle on them. I think the hind feet to look a little too theropod-like. I still think it's an overall good, drawing. And then you have the cycads in the background. No, wait, those aren't cycads. It's some
Almost
other
look like
type of palm.
palms.
Yeah, it's not
Okay,
hitting me what kind. There are several different families of
this guy's funny looking to me.
palms in general. There's dwarf palms. Okay, this seems to be probably from Prehistoric Kingdom or Jurassic World Evolution. Far too robust forelimbs. I mean, geez, he's like a gorilla. Okay, that's not a good comparison. Not that I'm just comparing it with a mammal, but um, gorillas have longer forelimbs compared to their hind limbs, and he still has longer hind limbs compared to his forelimbs. But it's just the overall robustness. I mean, this is like, yeah, like a Popeye Tyrannosaurus, except he has very large, what, deltoids or shoulder muscles? And what is with his bill? That is just odd. I think what I was trying to say, oh, okay, let's bring up a Lambeosaur. So specifically Lambeosaurus. So we will now travel to Alberta, Canada. Lambeosaurus.
Okay, we have a strange request. Bubba Sigma says, "Can you read I have cancer?"
Okay,
Let
so
me get rid of some of these guys. Okay, this is AI.
huh, actually might have taken me a bit to notice. It's not a bad Lambeosaurus. I think the hind limb should be a little longer compared to its body size. I don't mind the forelimbs. I think they're pretty well defined, though the fingers should be more like a hoof sort of a structure and not as separated as how it looks, at least for the two fingers in the middle.
Well, that's interesting because this is a oops, wrong one.
So the index and the middle finger.
These look like hoofs.
That's a better sort of depiction. I think the forelimbs might be a bit skinny, but certain species of hadrosaurs had quite skinny forelimbs compared to other types of hadrosaurs, especially the earlier guanodontids and certain older hadrosaur or even hadrosaur later into the Cretaceous.
Hey, somebody painted this. They gave it hoofs too.
Definitely gave that one a very long skin membrane. Oh yeah, I think I remember this from way back. Um, Yeah, they definitely gave it a very odd, almost like a rooster sort of a plumage, or maybe not a rooster, but no, that's what I think might resemble it. There's probably other birds. I don't mind it. I think it might be a bit wide, but it's very possible for hadrosaurs like Lambeosaurus to have that type of a look as well.
Somebody drew this.
I think his tail might be a bit thick, but it varied on the hadrosaur. I don't think this is a Lambeosaurus, unless it's another species of Lambeosaurus. Overall, though, I mean, this does resemble certain other hadrosaurs. It's not bad. I think the hind limbs are okay, and the forelimbs, yeah, they seem all right. But not. You still have it to where the front feet aren't in a hoof-like structure. Somewhat of a hoof. You would still have it where two of the fingers would be somewhat separated from the others. And yeah, that's a good view of the teeth. So these there would have been hundreds of teeth inside their mouth. And they also would have lost them consistently throughout the years, like crocodiles and sharks and other species of dinosaurs. Not just I think many people that are familiar with dinosaurs consistently losing their teeth only view the theropods as having that type of adaptation, but the herbivores had this as well, and this would occur in different species of long-necked sauropods, the ankylosaurs, the horned ceratopsians, and the ornithopods as well. Okay, let's head back to what I was trying to get at, except this species was probably not the best one to compare it with. I think it's more visible in certain species like um, Edmontosaurus and Parasaurolophus. The beaks of those specific hadrosaurs, I think it was even shown in Ouranosaurus, would tilt towards the ground. That's not really something that you see in any species of duck. Now, with the lambeosaurs, it seems to be a bit more similar to a duck bill structure. But in many species of hadrosaurs, they would have tilted
The way you
downwards.
said that was funny.
Same thing for other iguanodontids. Okay, let's head back. Let's see. The newly described hadrosaurid species lived in Africa during the late Maastrichtian age of the late Cretaceous epoch, around 68 million years ago. Named Mincaria beta, the dinosaur was relatively small, approximately 3.5 meters or 11.5 feet long. Well, I wonder if this is a juvenile or a younger individual of the Mincaria species of hadrosaur. Though, I mean, it seems to be with many of the species of dinosaur in the region that they didn't become very large, but considering how large the Abelisaurid or the relative of Carnotaurus is in Africa at this point, it, I would assume that this animal would have become much larger as well. There were smaller hadrosaurs, but they tend to have inhabited much smaller, like island sort of areas. So I'm guessing it's a juvenile. The species comes from the phosphate mines at Sidi Chinene, Morocco, the same locality that produced the Lambeosauri and Hadrosaurid Anabiae Odysseus, and is based on a partial skull. It belongs to Aranosaurini, a clade of Lambeosauri and Hadrosaurids endemic to Europe and North Africa. Maybe it is a smaller species. It's probably referring to the no, wait a second. The animal thinking of, Tomatosaurus, is just simply a hadrosauromorph, not a member of the Lambeosaurid lineage of hadrosaurs. So Mincaria beta is distinguished by or from Inhabia odysseus by the shape of the maxilla, which has a more eventually placed jugal facet, a curved um, ecto ectopterygoid ridge, a more sinusoidal tooth row, and neurovascular foramina arranged in a line, the paleontologist said. However, the new species closely resembles Hanibiae odysseus and other Tyrannosaurians in its small size and many anatomical features. Well, now it sounds like this could be an adult individual. This definitely would be one of the smallest hadrosaurs to exist. Well, at least we got this part of the skull. It's too bad that this is it.
It always amazes me they can do that and then say, "Ah, you got it."
Yeah, it's probably just it's certain simple um just knowledge in the overall like bone structure area, and you can identify whether or what type of specific ornithopod it is in this case. And just but the fact that it's coming in from Africa. The researchers also unearthed the fossilized remains of two other hadrosaurids at Sidi Dow and Mra Larak sites. Let's see. Is it Temeraptor? Okay, this is a carnivore I like to look up. It lived a bit earlier in the Cretaceous. So Tameraptor. Oh, did it not come up?
It's not that.
Well, when it comes to this specific species of carnivore, it
Isn't this
seems.
did we do an article on this a long time ago?
Oh, yeah, this thing. Okay.
Is that him?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
that's him. He has been discovered in recent years. So this is a new discovered species of Carcharodontosaurus. So despite some people maybe mistaking it for a species of Ceratosaur, considering when you look at the two horn-like structures on, or at least in the front of its eye sockets, as well as the um, snout and horn. You would think of some species of Ceratosaurus, but it looks like this animal is actually a closer member of the, or is a member of the Carcharodontosaur lineage due to further analyses. And let's see, Temaraptor is also one of the largest carnivores to exist over in northern Africa. It did not necessarily reach the size of Carcharodontosaurus or Spinosaurus aegypticus, but it did reach somewhere around 40 feet in length. They're pushing over 12 meters and possibly even a bit longer, maybe even pushing somewhere around 14 meters or 46 to 47 feet, and likely weighing somewhere around 5 to 6 tons. So at least the third largest carnivore in the region. So inhabiting northern Africa is the different parts of Egypt, Algeria,
Somebody made a fat one.
around 98 million years ago. I wouldn't say that it's fat. Maybe just a little extra bit of skin texture, but I think it's decently proportioned. I would say though that is a very small nest. It's a big question as to whether or not different species of dinosaurs, whether it's I'd say the carnivores, not so much the sauropods. Sauropods probably just dug an area like sea turtles and simply laid their eggs. Maybe they gently covered it over with dirt or sand. But theropod dinosaurs creating a little mound like that and then laying their eggs in that perfect circular row probably didn't occur. Maybe with certain species of smaller theropod dinosaurs where the mound was much larger compared to their size. But with the larger theropods, probably more similar to that of larger herbivores like sauropods in general, except it's likely that they stayed to look after the young. This is definitely an interesting depiction of this species of Carcharodontosaur. I'm wondering, it seems to be fighting off certain species of Abelisaurs in this instance. It might be Rugops, which existed over in northern Africa, which is also a relative of the Carnotaurus from late Cretaceous South America. But Rugops coexisted with Spinosaurus, Temaraptor during the early late Cretaceous, around 98 million years ago. They're probably feasting on like a young Egyptosaurus, or it could be even a Paralotitan, which is a much larger species of sauropod that existed in this region at the same time. Well, this is a good model. Those really are, or at least older, reconstructed Carcharodontosaur arms. It's like they're kind of thick and wide, but not necessarily very well defined. These days, with different reconstructions, you tend to see just more of like a musculature sort of differentiation, but not so much in this instance. He also seems to be missing a palm in general. I think his head really isn't that bad. I think the snout horn might be a bit far back.
Wait,
Um,
somebody drew one.
but it really is a Carcharodontosaurus, sort of a skull structure look. I think he has a bit too much neck muscle. That's almost like Tyrannosaur, like Spletosaurus or Tarbosaurus neck muscle. Huh.
And he's got a
Well,
big smile.
yeah, he's got lips. I think his horn should also maybe be a bit further down the snout, unless a certain other specimen has this type of a look for the horn. Probably wasn't used for defense, likely just for trying to intimidate other males, though it is a rather small horn. Um, I mean, it can still vary depending on the species. I mean, you can have it where that small of a display structure can actually cause quite an intimidation, especially if the animal also is very widely colored, which it looks like dinosaurs or it is likely because of how closely related they are to birds that dinosaurs could see in color. And this would go for every single species of dinosaur. Um, Possibly. Let's see. Huh. Well, I mean, I think it's a good reconstruction. Seems to be scarred. Probably got into a fight recently. Looks like they're trying to interpret another Tamaraptor, maybe some other species of predator, but I'm guessing that's what it would be, considering if it was a Spinosaur, there would likely, or the artist would have added more tooth marks. That'd be risky for a Spinosaur to do, though. but they didn't necessarily have an overall delicate skull structure. But I think it looked good. This is definitely a good Temoraptor look. Maybe the horn really. Oh well, okay. Never mind on that. Apparently, the horn is much further back. That original depiction or model, it might have been a painting. It looked like the horn was towards the front of the snout, like a Ceratosaurus, and not further back towards at least the center of the skull or the top of the skull, which is a much more almost a belly sore sort of a trait. And the belly sores, like Carnotaurus, were closely related to the Carcharodontosaurs.
I don't see a horn on this guy. Oop, there he is.
I think it's a model, like a toy model. I mean, it looks pretty good. They've got his lips and gosh, very wide, Carcharodontosaur arms. I think the rest of him though looks good. The legs look evenly proportioned. Can't see his feet though, but the head in general can barely see the horn. But I think I can see a little yellow area. At least it looks decent from here. Okay, let's finish off that article. A humerus and a femur belong to harder, or not harder, larger hadrosaurids, 6 meters or 20 feet long, implying at least three species coexisted. Okay, so they're finding other species of supposed hadrosaur in the region as well. That this is very rare. Oh, there's more. The team's analysis suggests the hadrosaurid group Lambeosaurinae initially diversified in Asia, then saw dispersals into North America. Yeah, that's what I was actually assuming originally. I was found it a bit surprising when it mentioned North America at first. That would have been a very similar thing for the ceratopsian dinosaurs, the horned dinosaurs as well, like Triceratops and its ancestors. Well, Triceratops first evolved over in, or only evolved in North America. That was towards the end of the ceratopsians lineage.
You're not
And
saying all ceratopsians evolved in North America.
no, 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 no. They didn't arrive in North America until much later into the Cretaceous period, and they evolved over in Asia during the seems to be early. Well, I'd say mid Jurassic, around 165 million years ago. So let's see. Dispersal from Asia into Europe was followed by dispersal into North Africa. I would assume until much later. Multiple disperses from Europe to Africa seem less parsimonious than a single dispersal, but are not impossible, particularly given the distinctive morphologies of Anabia odysseus and Mincaria beta. Oh, it wasn't hitting me that these were two different species of hadrosaur. I was thinking it was a completely different dinosaur. That's why they had them right next to each other. The diversity of hadrosaurids in Europe and Africa suggests a dispersal driven radiation, with Lambeosaurines diversifying to take advantage of low ornithischian diversity. African Lambeosaurines are small compared to North American and Asian hadrosaurids, however, perhaps to competition with Titanosaurians. Uh,
Well, doesn't that always depend on the size of the bleh, say it? Tyrannus
Tyrannosaurs?
Tyrannosaurians, right?
No, it's due to, well, no, it's referring to the Titanosaurs, the sauropods. You were saying
Oh,
Tyrannosaurs.
okay.
That wouldn't that's not really a, good theory to, put out in this instance because you have it with, slightly earlier ecosystems over in Mongolia, where you had different species of large hadrosaurs, along with large species of sauropods, like Nemectosaurus, Sparspoldia, Tyrannosaurus, Cerolophus, Cerolophus, the larger species, was a bit earlier in time, so I guess we'll not include him. But Barspoldia was reaching somewhere around 38 feet in length, possibly longer, or pushing around 12 meters. and weighing up to 6 to 7 tons. And then you had Nemectosaurus, which was somewhere around 75 to 80 feet in length. They're pushing over 25 meters and probably weighing somewhere around 30 to 40 tons. And they were in ecosystems that could support these large sizes and also herds of these animals and several other species of large sauropods and hadrosaurs. Um, but when it comes to this specific area, I don't really think that it's specifically the titanosaurs in the region. I think it's that this area was probably just not very lush, so abundant in different species of ferns, conifer trees for them to feed on. So you had smaller dinosaurs in general. But that species of a bellysaur that's been found in this area, I don't know, unless or this specific species would have simply fed on the different species of sauropod more often than the hadrosaurs, because the hadrosaurs are not going to be able to fill them up. It would just simply too energy consuming to hunt down enough of these hadrosaurs to consistently supply these carnivores with enough food. So I'm looking at it as really just an overall vegetation abundance rather than competition with another herbivore, especially since, at least at the moment, doesn't seem that there really were many herbivores in this region, which seems to be the case in a lot of desert ecosystems, or where vegetation at least is less abundant. So let's see. Hadrosaurs are unknown from Eastern Africa. Yeah, that is true. But that's on the complete other side of the continent. We're over in northwest Morocco, or Morocco is in northwestern Africa, suggesting Moroccan hadrosaurs may be part of a distinct insular fauna and represent an island radiation. Well, that does seem to be the case considering the other species of at least hadrosauromorphs and other ornithopods were inhabiting different islands. But this was probably a much larger area, which is also why the predators are larger. So, um, yeah, it even seems to be at the end of the article that it's stating, at least maybe coming from the other paleontologists themselves, that, yeah, it had to do with the ecosystem. Okay, let's head over to the next discovery. So, from Sci News, new Triassic dinosaur species identified in New Mexico. Let's see where this takes us. A new genus and species of carnivorous Herrerasaurian. Woo! This is good to hear considering it's coming from the Triassic period, which is the only time in the Mesozoic era or the age of the dinosaurs that Herrerasaurs existed. I was wondering, well, maybe we had a early or mid Jurassic species of theropod dinosaur um, pop up, considering they are nearly non-existent when it comes to the fossil record. You only start to see species of theropods appear in New Mexico during the late Jurassic, or around 152 million years ago, with carnivores such as Ceratosaurus and Allosaurus, maybe even Torvosaurus. Has been described from an incomplete but well preserved skull found in northern New Mexico, the United States. So, northern New Mexico, guessing probably not necessarily adjacent to the Rocky Mountain region. Probably maybe even a bit further west. This is a Herrerasaurian? He's got a rather, well, a Herrerasaurian, not necessarily a member of Herrerasauridae.
It doesn't look like feathers, it looks like it has fur.
Yeah, it does. Like, he has to shave.
That's what I was
Like,
thinking.
it's just not even. Let's see. So the new dinosaur species roamed our planet around 201 million years ago during the Retian stage of the latest Triassic. Yeah, it's literally about to change into the Jurassic. So he's going to die off. Okay, so named Tychothorates buccolentus. It offers rare insight into a poorly understood moment in dinosaur history. Well, to accompany him, even though it's from a different lineage, let's look up another species of theropod that lived slightly earlier into the Triassic. Let's see. The Luctivinator. So Luctiavenator. It is a species of coelophysid. It existed over in, I believe, Arizona during the late Triassic, but around 10 million years, that's La Hasvinator.
Oh,
Seems to
my bad.
be
I didn't
a
check.
species of dinosaur. Maybe you respell it? Oh, okay. So, so basically, it is a close relative of the more famous Coelophysis, as well as the Camposaurus, not to confuse with Camptosaurus, which is an ornithopod from the late Jurassic. Um, but Luke Diavanator was somewhere around pushing 11 feet in length, or a little over what 3.1 meters,
I'm trying to
and
find one.
not even a Coelophysis like look. We can just look up Coelophysis. He's very similar in body structure. He's just simply much longer and probably weighs 2 to 3 times as much at least. Somewhere around 2 to 250 pounds, or a little over 100 kilograms. This was a much more heavily built species of Coelophysid. Okay. Let's put him in Coelophysis. This animal is specifically Coelophysis bari, but it is a very close relative of the Luctiovenator. And see, Luctiovenator, yeah, inhabiting Arizona around 210 million years ago. I believe shortly after Coelophysis occurred, Coelophysis was over in Arizona, different parts of the southern American or the southern United States, but specifically more of like Texas and then further west. You don't find Coelophysis further east. So this would be a very similar skeletal structure, except it's less robust to the Lichtivinator. Coelophysis is fairly abundant in different Triassic quarries over in New Mexico. Wow, I haven't seen a Coelophysis this covered in feathers. Seems to be somebody's model. Wow, they give him very large eyes too. Almost like a shorter sort of a upper jaw compared to the bottom jaw, but it might be just the feathers and the more robustness of or the robust structure of the upper jaw. Large forearms. Okay, yeah, I think the feathers are a bit more matching in this, or at least all these individuals. They also seem to be quite clustered together when it comes to finding different species of Coelophysis. We also are different specimens of Coelophysis. Um, Not necessarily like Lutea venator, but Coelophysis itself, we have quite a bit of info as to what these animals were eating. These were definitely carnivores. There really isn't any evidence to suggest that they were feeding on plants. There have been different specimens of Coelophysis with different early species of crocodilomorphs embedded in their rib cages, suggesting that they were feeding on the crocodilomorphs. And as well, even different species of lizards have been found in their rib cage, which, just to remind everybody, lizards and crocodiles are not the same thing, though they do derive from the same earlier reptilian ancestors. However, lizards are not members of the Archosauromorph lineage, like the dinosaurs, the birds, and the crocodilians, as well as the crocodilomorphs in general. Um, Coelophysis itself was much smaller. This animal was somewhere around 9 feet in length. They're pushing around 2.8 meters, and probably not weighing much more than 60 to 80 pounds, or a little over 30 kilograms. So, um, oh, oh, right. Yeah, this model. Yeah, too long of arms compared to. I wouldn't say that they're too long. It's that they're a bit too robust. Coelophysis had fairly um, thin arms compared to its body size. And it is odd. You have different species of theropods during the Triassic period that had quite long arms compared to their body size, and others not so much. Like, why in evolution did different theropod dinosaurs, even at this point, decide to take just such different paths when it came to different parts of the body? Actually, we can look up another species
Did I
of.
already do this?
Yep. Well, it's at a different angle. It's more towards the front. Despite how I'd say small these carnivores tend to be depicted in documentaries, this would be quite a hassle to deal with. But let's see who else. Actually, let's look up an herbivore, Blakinosaurus. So Blakinosaurus. Now, this is definitely a much larger animal compared to either of the theropods or at least the coelophysids. Oh, by the way, did it pop up? Is it like a sauropodomorph? Looks like a
Wait, did you spell it Blikanas?
I think I meant to say Blakino. Why does it have an I in front of it?
Yeah,
Or
and
or it's
BLI.
bly or it's Blacanosaurus. Is that what it's saying? Okay, yeah, that's it. So this is a species of sauropodomorph or prosauropod from the, I believe, late Triassic period. Somewhere around 205 to 210 million years ago, over in South Africa. South Africa is actually very widely known for discovering a wide variety of different members of the prosauropod family in general.
They don't look alike.
Yeah, it's a bad AI one. That's just a weird one. Too bad it's a bit blurry. I think he's still a bit odd. I will say the limbs, at least the forelimbs, I think they're the best. I think the hind limbs are a bit large compared to the forelimbs. This belonged to a group of prosauropods that actually had the ability to walk on all fours, or they were quadrupedal. Many species of prosauropods, especially certain ones that we find in other parts of Africa or even Europe, were strictly bipedal, and they did not have the ability to walk on all fours. They simply would have crushed their forelimbs under their weight. But the Blacanosaurus was a member of the Blacanosauridae lineage of prosauropods, and I believe this lineage would have existed until somewhere around 185 million years ago during the early Jurassic period. And close relatives of these animals would have given rise to the true sauropods later on to the mid Jurassic. But at this point, this is one of those species of prosauropods that look very sauropod like, at least when it comes to their overall neck structures, their head structures, and even their tails. However, their legs tell a bit of a different story. Their forelimbs are much shorter compared to their hind limbs, despite being able to maintain or support a large portion of their weight. Um, they seem to be a little less, well, I wouldn't say a little less. They were just not the bipedal prosauropods like with what we see in species such as Plateosaurus. But Blachynosaurus could reach around 22, 23 feet in length. They're pushing 6 to 7 meters and probably weighing somewhere around 1.5 to 2 tons. It was a very robust species of prosauropod. Um, what is it? I believe it's also a close relative of the Maranosaurus, which is also close to the same size and is also a quadruped as well. For some reason, we have many species of quadrupedal prosauropods coming in from different late Triassic formations over in South Africa. South Africa is also known for different species of early theropod dinosaurs or carnivores, and less when it comes to the coelophysid lineage. But certain close relatives like the Herrerasaurians. Okay, we can take this away and head back. Um, you have certain theropod dinosaurs like Chindosaurus that come in from Argentina from around this time. So I believe Chindosaurus was a bit earlier into the Triassic. Dinosaurs originated in the Carnian stage, 237 to 227 million years ago. That's still up for debate, but technically that seems to be around the time or the more agreed upon time. The earliest part of the late Triassic, I would still call it mid Triassic, and subsequently diverged into three Jurassic surviving lineages: Ornithischiae, Theropoda, and Sauropodomorpha, said Virginia Tech paleontologist Simba Srivastava and Sterling Nesbitt. Okay,
Wait, we have
so
a lion that's a paleontologist?
and a polar bear expert too. because Ian Sterling is a current expert on polar bears. So, nearly all of the earliest dinosaur remains come from the high latitude southern part of Pangaea. So, present day Brazil, Argentina, Zimbabwe. So, Zimbabwe is over in Africa, India, Asia. Whereas the lower latitudes, the late Triassic deposits of the American Southwest, so areas like Arizona, New Mexico, parts of Southern California, Utah, Colorado, and Nevada, and you can find certain Triassic layers, but you're not really going to find any dinosaurs. And as well as parts of Western Texas. Let's see. Have few, if any, diagnostic dinosaur remains from the equivalent age? Oh, yeah, and also mention Morocco. Zimbabwe, I take that with a grain of salt. I believe there have been certain Triassic specimens that have been found there, unless I'm confusing these Zimbabwe specimens with Permian deposits or from over 252 million years ago or between 305 and 252 million years ago. India, you start to see more dinosaur activity or specimens occurring when it comes to the late Cretaceous, possibly a bit earlier, even to the early Cretaceous, like around 125 million years ago, but definitely like around 70 million years ago. Argentina, Brazil. Brazil, we get certain Triassic dinosaurs. Argentina, it's not even a question. We get quite a number of different species of dinosaurs from mid Triassic Argentina. So that's a bit off. Same thing for the American South. Well, I guess you could say for the American Southwest, it's a bit later into the Triassic. So in this case, it is technically right. Once you start hitting about 215 million years ago, the dinosaurs become a lot more common. Even somewhere around 220 million years ago, certain crocodilomorphs are already present. The fossilized remains of Tychotherates buccolentis, a mostly complete skull with a complete brain case and much of the skull roof, were found in 1982 in the Silophysis quarry in northern New Mexico. I think many people are somewhat familiar with they're familiar with Triassic dinosaurs to an extent. However, the Placerius quarry, but that has to do with a massive proto mammal that existed in the area, weighing over 2,000 pounds or pushing over 900 kilograms, um, around 220 million years ago. Coelophysis quarry technically dates to a bit later in time, to about 213 million years ago, and really only hosts a wide variety of Coelophysis and the animals that they fed on. Where was I getting on with? Oh, so this is quite interesting. So over 40 years, and they finally have been doing further analyses onto this specific species of Herrerasaurian. The skull itself measures about 22 centimeters or 9 inches in length and suggests a dinosaur with a relatively tall, narrow head. The skull shows that the species had massive cheekbones, a wide brain case, and probably a short, deep snout. Interesting, considering it's, long, tall, narrow head, and then a short, deep snout. So interesting, that model might be somewhat accurate, despite how bit ugly it is. It was the first time these characteristics had been seen in early dinosaurs. It has? Oh, well, depending on how far back we are referring to, maybe this is true. If it really is one of the earliest Rarasaurians, which first evolved from around 230 to 231 million years ago, indicating that they were constantly evolving. Well, I mean, this would um, pretty much account for any species of dinosaur or lineage of dinosaur. You could constantly see new changes in their morphology, their physiology. So, Tychotherates buccolentis belongs to one of the earliest evolving families of carnivorous dinosaurs called Herrerasauridae. This is not to confuse it with different species of Coelophysids or Coelophysoideae, which is a completely different lineage of theropods. The species is closely related to two Triassic dinosaurs, Tewa oh yeah, this guy, and Chindosaurus bryansamali. These small animals form part of a newly defined clade, Morphoraptora. I wouldn't say Morphoraptora is necessarily new. Maybe if you're talking in the past 40 years, but technically, I mean, it's been around for some time. Um, Unless I'm confusing with the later Maniraptora, but I don't believe so. Which displays a mix of anatomical features seen in both more primitive dinosaurs and later theropods. Trying to think what else. Let's just keep going. Through anatomical. Wait, hold on a second. Beforehand. Okay, I really think I should. Okay, you know what? Let's pull them up anyway. Herrerasaurus. Herrera. Oh, okay. So this is a member of specifically Herrerasauridae, and there have been a couple different species of Herrerasaurus that have been discovered. But Herrerasaurus is widely known from different areas of Argentina, I believe even Chile and Brazil. It's a very it was a very successful carnivore during the later mid-Triassic period, so somewhere around 228 million years ago. And the larger Herrerasaurus species could reach over 13 feet in length. They're pushing 4 meters and probably weigh somewhere around 7 to 800 pounds, or pushing around 3 to 350 kilograms. And also had some of the more robust skull structures of theropods at this point. There were a wide variety of other species of theropod dinosaurs, but they tend to be smaller. Even as they approached this size, had much longer, more thin, narrow jaw structures. I think certain earlier depictions of Herrerasaurus make this animal out to not really have a very robust jaw structure, almost like just being delicate, like later species of carnosaurs. And the carnosaurs had not evolved yet. They really won't start showing up until the mid Jurassic, like different species or close relatives such as the megalosaurs. But Herrerasaurus, was definitely feeding on some of the earlier prosauropods at this point. This wasn't like the Coelophysis where it's just feeding on different species of lizard. I mean, it likely did, especially when it was younger, or the smaller crocodilomorphs. In fact, it was probably hunting certain medium-sized or even larger crocodilomorphs. Big question as to whether or not this animal might have hunted in packs. And the same goes for a wide variety of smaller to medium-sized theropod dinosaurs, even the larger ones. I don't mind this model. I think it's from a much earlier reconstruction. It almost has that 1960s Deinonychus sort of depiction, or at least when John Ostrom, so the Dutch American paleontologist that discovered the Deinonychus raptor, which was used for the raptor models in Jurassic Park. Oh yeah, so I mean, he doesn't have lips, but this was one of the more typical reconstructions of Rherosaurus. You could even say for smaller species of Rherosaurus, this isn't a bad reconstruction. It's almost accurate.
This guy doesn't have lips either.
Oh, yeah. Um, we might have found certain skin fragments or preserved skin of Herrerasaurus. We do find there's a wide variety of different species of theropod dinosaurs in which we have found preserved skin. Not all of them, but it definitely has become a bit more common in recent discoveries. What is it? It's definitely also a very one of the smartest animals to exist at this point. And yes, it could hunt people. I mean, definitely, if it's going after larger species of prosauropods weighing up to a ton, it's definitely going to see people as a snack. There were different species or different lineages of prosauropods as well. That a wide variety of different species of theropod dinosaurs related to Herrerasaurus would have fed on, but specifically, it would have been quite narrowed down to a specific family like a specific family of prosauropods that Herrerasaurus might have focused on, as well as maybe other smaller species of carnivorous theropod dinosaurs. Okay, we can head back to the article. So where were we? Through anatomical comparison with other Triassic archosaurs and inclusion in phylogenetic analyses. Um, I mean, archosaurs could mean anything. Technically, a pterosaur is an archosaur. So this would refer to the small flying pterosaurs, such as like the Eudimorphodon, Patinosaurus during the Triassic and Jurassic periods. And they didn't reach much more than 2 feet in total wingspan, or pushing somewhere around zero point 0.6 meters. Probably only weighed maybe a couple of pounds or around a kilogram. But then you have different types of crocodilomorphs. Remember, I'm assuming that they're comparing it with other theropod dinosaur archosaurs. We support Tychotheraptes buccolentis as a new taxon of Saurischian dinosaur closely related to Tawahali. More broadly, we recover Tychotheraptes buccolentis as a member of Morphoraptora, a clade known exclusively from the Upper Triassic deposits of southwestern United States. Previously, scientists believed that by the latest Triassic, the earliest carnivorous dinosaur lineages had already disappeared, replaced by more advanced theropods. This was already occurring, I'd say, much earlier into the Triassic, where you had much larger carnivores evolving, specifically the dinosaurs, not the crocodilomorphs. And yeah, as you would reach further into the late Triassic, definitely as the Jurassic appeared, you were already having different species of theropod dinosaurs reaching well over 20 feet in length. They're pushing 6 meters and probably weighing around 1,800 to 2,000 pounds. They're pushing between um, probably 800 to 900 kilograms, and possibly even hunting in packs. Were they feathered? That's big question too. Many reconstructions recently have been adding feathers to many of these early species of theropod dinosaurs. I think in some cases even the proto dinosaurs. However, the presence of Tychotheraptes buccolentis suggests that some of these groups persisted much longer than expected, at least in low latitude regions of the ancient supercontinent Pangaea. That's not too surprising. This goes for a wide variety of different species of not just theropod dinosaurs, but even the herbivores in general. Let's see. Well, specifically the Saurischian lineage of herbivorous dinosaurs, like the prosauropods. Herbivorous dinosaurs were not very, there wasn't a lot of variety back in the Triassic. It really isn't until the beginning of the Jurassic, and there is this explosion in different lineages of herbivorous dinosaurs. It's quite limited for the first 35 million years of the dinosaur's reign during the Mesozoic era. Tychotheraptes buccolentis was found in rocks that may date to right before the Great Extinction at the end of the Triassic period, and no other members of their family was ever seen again. That is so sad. Possibly suggesting that this dinosaur group went extinct as a result of that mass extinction. Um, well, yeah, I would assume so. Oh, wait a second. You're just talking about the Triassic Jurassic boundary. Well, it would depend on the lineage of theropod dinosaur. There are a wide variety that made into the Jurassic. Either else, you wouldn't have had any larger theropod dinosaurs like Allosaurus all of a sudden evolve during the late Jurassic, or even Torvosaurus. But you could even refer to earlier in the Jurassic with animals like Dilophosaurus, Monolophosaurus. Let's see. This forces us to reconsider the impact of the end Triassic extinction as something that wiped out not just the competitors to dinosaurs, but some long-standing dinosaur lineages themselves. It was also the time when the last proto mammals went extinct, like different species of cynodonts, dicynodonts. So, like the tusked herbivores such as Placerius, even certain proto mammal carnivores, and different species of crocodilomorphs mysteriously went extinct as well, and certain dinosaur lineages too. But the dinosaurs and then the true mammals would continue, even different species of reptiles in general. So it is a big question as to why all of a sudden these other groups went extinct. The same would go for like not just the end, like Triassic Jurassic boundary, but even those several epochs throughout the Triassic period would see several small extinctions occur. And finally, because no Herrerasaurians have been found anywhere else this late in the Triassic, the area that is today the American Southwest may have been where they survived the longest and made their last stand. Um. Oh, wait a second. Was this over? I keep forgetting it's discovered in New Mexico. I keep thinking of specifically the Herrera swords from Argentina. Considering that's where many species of Herrera sword come from. Well, thanks for joining. And from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guy and Live Daily News. We are streaming on both Rumble, YouTube, and Kick. And remember that nothing is better than all animals all the time.
Oh, and we're double streaming on YouTube.
Oh, right. We're also double streaming on YouTube. And I guess we could start off with Happy International Herrera Sword Day.